Since the last time we talked to all you guys, we figured out when the Eagles are going to play, what time they're going to play, and now even an opponent.
Yeah, it'll be the Rams, and I'm sure most of you guys out there watched the Rams-Vikings on Monday night, which wasn't exactly the kind of game I expected. I thought it would be a little bit closer, but I did think the Rams were the better team. So it's going to be an interesting one. Look, these two teams have a long history going back to the 1940s in the postseason. No, don't go there, Dave. So Sunday afternoon, 3:00 at the Link, Eagles-Rams.
Love playoff football. It's an exciting time of year. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. We do have a lot to get to today. Questions at the end of the podcast. We have a top 8 remaining teams in the NFL playoffs, and we'll go through how we'd rank those teams. Coordinators, we talked to Vic Fangio, Kellen Moore, Michael Clay. On Tuesday, we have some takeaways from listening to those guys. We'll talk about the Nakobe Dean injury, where the Eagles go from here. But we wanted to start with the Rams because, like a lot of our listeners, I'm sure we watched that Rams-Vikings game. I actually was a little surprised it was a blowout like that. I think the Vikings actually were the better team. Now they didn't play like it in the last 2 weeks.
14 games. So
yeah, the last 2 weeks they've really kind of tanked. But ultimately, I think this was a better matchup for the Eagles, getting the Rams instead of the Vikings.
I actually agree with that. And I thought the Rams would win, and I also thought the Rams were a better matchup for the Eagles. It's just the way it is. They do some things really well. Obviously, the Eagles handled them out in L.A. Earlier in the year, late November. So it'll be the second rematch, which is kind of interesting. Second rematch in a row in the postseason. But they do some things really well. We saw them pick up 9 sacks in that game, which probably had as much to do with the Vikings quarterback as it had to do with the Rams front. But they have a good front. They have some really good young players. Their whole front is first and second year guys pretty much. And I think the Eagles O-line is a little bit better than the Vikings O-line. And their quarterback certainly had some issues this year with avoiding pressure, but I think it won't go like it did Sunday. But they have weapons. Their offense is, Matt Stafford's been doing it at a high level for a long, long time. I think in his career, he's got 14 touchdowns and 1 interception against the Eagles. I'm sure you know who had that 1 interception.
I don't know.
It was Nnamdi.
Oh, okay.
Nnamdi Asomugha is the only Eagle to ever pick off Matt Stafford. It was in 2012. Yeah, I mean, take that for what it's worth. He's a really savvy, experienced veteran quarterback, borderline Hall of Famer probably. I don't think he's quite a Hall of Famer.
He doesn't have the accolades, but he was also stuck in Detroit for a decade.
Yeah. So, but
it's funny. Like, young kids probably don't realize what that means because Detroit's been good for a few years.
That's true.
It was a wasteland for a while.
A long time. Yeah, really long time. So they do some things really well, and the Eagles are going to have to play well to win this game. I think the Eagles are the better team. I think they're significantly the better team. I think they're sounder, but the Rams are going to come in here and challenge this team in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we'll get into the full matchups later in the week. But if you remember Week 12 in LA, the Eagles win 37-20. That was the Saquon Barkley incredible game. 255 yards rushing, 302 scrimmage yards. He busted out 2 70-yard runs in that game, and that's part. Look, we've seen them bully the Rams. We did not see that, obviously, with earlier in the year. We didn't see that with the Vikings, but that's the reason I thought it was an easier matchup. We've seen it already.
Yeah, and I think the Eagles are a more physical team, and maybe that's like, you think of like the West Coast finesse teams. I also think the Rams have a tough week. I mean, they played because of the fires in Southern California. They played that game Monday night in Glendale in Arizona. And so they probably got back to LA at like early Tuesday morning. They'll fly here Saturday. They don't even know if they can practice at their facility because there's fires near their practice facility. So, they're basically getting in Tuesday and flying out west. Some teams fly out west Friday. I'm guessing they would Saturday just because of the way the week shapes up. But the Eagles are sitting here at home in their own beds after a game Sunday afternoon. I think that's a significant advantage.
Yeah, that's why you fight to get one of those top seeds. Obviously, the number 1 seed, you get the bye, but 2 seed, you at least get 2 home games if you win in the first round. So that's a big deal. And sometimes with a team that kind of goes through an emotional week, has an emotional win, sometimes we've seen kind of a letdown. This is anecdotal. Of course, I don't have the numbers to support it, but sometimes it feels like the following game or the following week, there's a little bit of a letdown.
Like the Cowboys, when the Eagles played them, like the Cowboys are coming off a emotional win. Let's do it for the coach. And then the Eagles killed them. Eagles are undefeated in this round, in the conference semifinal round. Some people call it the divisional round. They've never lost at home in this.
Because that's what the NFL calls it.
Yeah, but there's nothing divisional about it. It's the conference semifinal. So the Eagles have never lost in this round, which doesn't really mean anything in the big picture, but it's interesting to note.
Yeah, it certainly is. What were your takeaways from watching the game on Monday night? It was not a very exciting game. And to give a little behind the scenes here, Rube and I split up pre-writes because we knew they'd face the winner of that game. So Rube had the Rams pre-write. I had the Vikings pre-write. I went ahead and threw my Vikings pre-write in the garbage can pretty early.
Middle second quarter, maybe. Yeah, mine was ready to go about the same time. The Rams didn't do a lot on offense in that game. They didn't have to. But I don't think their offense is special. They have some really good players. You look at their season. I mean, they scored 44 against the Bills. I don't think they've scored more than 20 since. I think 7 of the points last night were on a return. So I really like the matchup between the Eagles defense and the Rams offense, even though they've got great receivers. I think Kyron Williams is a good back. I don't think he's a great back. I think that he's the kind of back the Eagles can really bottle up. And I just like the matchup between these Eagles corners and the D-backs with the Rams skill guys, because I mean, they just shut people down, and even really good receivers. So Kupp's not. I don't think Kupp's physically what he used to be. Puka Nacua certainly is terrific, but
he's like trying to tackle. He's like their Josh Jacobs. Normally, I think with running back hard to take down. It's Puka Nacua.
Yeah, he's a really physical guy. Really good friends with Britton Covey. I guess they trained together. Britton was best friends with Puka Nakua's brother, apparently. But I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team. And I said, I think before the Packers game, I thought the wild card matchup could very well end up being a tougher game for the Eagles than the second round.
And I think I kind of agree with you. I think the Packers are a better team than the Rams.
Yeah, I would agree.
And that doesn't mean that crazy things can't happen. It doesn't mean the Eagles can't lose this game. But I think it is notable, getting back to the game from Monday night, that, if you were to tell me the Rams are going to beat the Vikings, I feel like the big talking point would be about the Rams offense and how they just won in a high scoring game. That's kind of the game script I would have envisioned.
Right.
And it wasn't like that. They didn't have to do a ton on offense. Their defense played really well, and the Vikings offense did not. Sam Darnold was kind of a mess in that game. He really turned into a pumpkin the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he really did. And it was funny because a few weeks ago, like, people are talking about his future. And I'm like, he's had a really good year. Like, they won 14 games, but then it's kind of like everybody's worst fears came.
They went from being so close to getting the number 1 seed in the NFC to being out. Yeah. Getting the 5 and then just getting bounced.
Yeah. And maybe they just didn't mentally have the toughness to kind of deal with. I mean, they were really hot. I mean, they were playing great football, and then they lose to the Lions, and then all of a sudden it's like that road to New Orleans looks so much tougher. I mean, they just couldn't handle it.
How many times watching that game on Monday night were you just going, Sam, throw the ball? Sam, throw the ball?
Many, many times. He was sacked 9 times for 82 yards.
There was one sack, I think it was 3rd and 8. He looked to his right, saw the pass rusher coming right at him with no one in the way, turned back and still scanned the field and didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It was just, he was seeing ghosts all game, but there were some plays like that were just, I just have no idea what the heck was going on.
Yeah, he just looked lost out there. The Rams tied the NFL record for sacks in a postseason game with 9. They have some good players up front, and
they do, and they play really well together. They're young, like you mentioned, so getting them to play a full season together has really mattered. It's not like they have one shining star. I mean, they have a bunch of really good players up front.
Yeah, Kobe Turner and certainly Jared
Kobe Turner's
Verse.
been underrated for a while.
Yeah, I think so. Byron Young is really solid. They just have waves.
Not to be confused with the Eagles' Byron Young.
No, different guy. And it's not like they well, he's on IR and his practice window is open, so we'll update on our Byron Young. But yeah,
A couple of really good rookies, and Jared Verse and Braden Fisk.
Yeah, and Verse, he'll get votes for. He might get the defensive rookie of the year. He'll be in the top group, and I mean they're really good, and they're like you said, there's not one guy. They have a lot of really good guys. But I'll take the Eagles O-line against any front in the league.
Yeah, and that's the one takeaway. Obviously, Saquon was the big takeaway. Everyone remembers Saquon's performance in that game, but to me, I remember just how physically imposing the Eagles were against that same front. Now things can change. It's the Rams remember that too, so I'm sure they don't want it to happen again. But that's kind of what I remember most in that game is just the offensive line beating up on them.
Yeah, I don't think the Rams are a particularly physical team, like I said earlier, and I think that's such an advantage for the Eagles, especially at home and with the Rams on a short week.
Out of a dome, in some conditions.
Yeah, it's not going to be super cold, it looks like, but it's not going to be warm. I'm not sure they like that. Boy, I'll always take – and the Rams actually have a good record playing on the East Coast. I was looking that up. They've been pretty good, surprisingly good.
Yeah, I remember seeing a graphic about that on a game broadcast, Stafford and McVay together traveling east. They've been pretty good.
Yeah, they have. I was looking at that last night. It was a little surprising, but still, I just think that's such an advantage having a game here. They got to fly across the country after getting back home on Tuesday. I just love that matchup, and I think if the Eagles can keep that pass pressure off Jalen, I think they could win this game by a good margin.
I'm kind of with you there, and I do agree with you that on paper, at least, this is an easier game. I don't want to say easy because nothing's easy at this point, but I think it's an easier game than the Packers. Yeah,
I do as well. I'm really curious to see how the Rams will adjust defensively. As far as they don't want to give up 250 rushing yards again, obviously. Are they going to stack the box? Are they going to, if they do, you hope Jalen's a little sharper in the second game back, and they'll be, look, you stack the box against the Eagles, there's players who are going to be open who are really good. And, hopefully Jalen finds them and sees them. And he has for the most part during the season. But I'm curious to see how the Rams change defensively. And if that leads to more opportunities in the passing game.
Yeah, I think that's all stuff that we'll talk about later in the week. Now I want to tell you to get fired up for the playoffs with an Eagles Live Q&A. Join Eagles experts in person or virtually as they answer all your biggest birds questions, presented by Toyota, proud automotive partner of the NFL. That's Friday at 7 p.m., Blue Cross River Rink. I'll be out there with Rube and Barrett and Ashland. Should be a really good time. And also, the Road to Victory tour bus is back Friday, January 17th. Come celebrate the birds with exclusive swag and special guests, plus a chance to win tickets to a playoff game presented by Ticketmaster. Go to NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com for the full schedule. Of course, that leads right into the Q&A on Friday. Should be a really fun day. Everyone's really fired up.
I like that the bus is going through Jersey this time. Get Jersey, it's due, Moorestown, Pittman, Collingswood.
Yeah. $6 toll coming back, though, right? Actually, probably more than that for a bus.
Yeah, probably 20.
I don't know. No idea. I never driven a bus across the bridge.
So I like that. It's a group 3 in Moorestown, a group 1 in Pittman, and a group 2 in Collingswood. So you got all different sizes. Collingswood was a great little town. So was Pittman. Well, so was Moorestown. All good towns. Good restaurants.
Like a politician. Might run for mayor in any of those 3 towns.
Yeah, just not Marlton. I don't want to run against special teams coach.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about Nakobe Dean. The last time we spoke, we knew it was probably really serious. We didn't know the full extent of it. Since then, we've learned it's a torn patellar tendon in his left knee. Yeah, it's obviously a season ender in the playoffs, and it's an injury that I don't want to go too far into speculating about how much time he'll miss next year, but it's a lengthy recovery process, typically lengthier than, an ACL or an MCL. It's a significant one.
It is, and it's such a shame for a couple of reasons. He had come so far and was playing so well, and such a big part of this defense. And such a popular guy in the locker room as a young guy, still a young guy, had really become a leader on that defense. And he and Zach Baun just had such a symbiotic relationship, both on the field and off the field. I mean, they played so well together. Two playmakers. I don't know the last time the Eagles had two linebackers this good at the same time. I don't know if it's ever. Maybe before my time, but it's such a shame. And he loves playing so much. You just go back and talk to him, and he talks football, and he's just glowing, just talking about how can't wait for the next game, the next practice. He's everything that you want in a young defensive player. And, they'll miss him in a lot of ways. They'll miss the leadership, the energy, the enthusiasm, and obviously the playmaking. He spent last year, rehabbing a foot after foot surgery. It's just been a tough, unfortunate series of things. Didn't play as a rookie, played special teams. Said he felt so blessed just to be going to a Super Bowl as a rookie, even though he wasn't playing defense. And then last year he starts 4 games, doesn't play particularly well, and then hurts his foot, came back, went on IR for the rest of the year, had surgery. He was late getting into training camp, late start, and finally gets his shot and has a great year. It's just, you just feel so bad for the kid. The timing sucks. I mean, this is what you play all year for, and to get here and not be able to go out there with your teammates and your friends, it's just so unfortunate.
Yeah, and we spent a lot of time talking about the Eagles' injury luck and how they had 22 of 22 starters. So you look around the league, and I still think they're in a better position than a lot of teams.
Sure.
But this one, there's no doubt. I mean, this hurts. And to see the way him and Zach Baun played together this year, like they started off the season, it was kind of weird in training camp because you had Devin White in that mix, and you're like, who's even going to be the starting 2? And then
we pretty much knew it was going to be. I mean, we sat in this very room after every training camp practice saying Nakobe should be starting.
Well, we said that he should. I don't know if we knew that was going to happen.
Right. No, exactly.
Yeah. But like how far those two came, like watching them play together was a joy this year.
It was.
I hope they get to play together again. We don't know if that's going to happen.
Right.
Zach Baun, obviously a free agent at the end of this year. I think it's even more imperative that they sign him now without knowing when Nakobe's going to be back. You can't go from having this high of linebacker play this year to not having either of those guys next year.
Yeah. And, that's the unfortunate part of a late season injury. I mean, it's going to cut into his training camp. I don't even know if he'll be out there at all for training camp. Who knows?
I don't want to. Yeah.
No, you can't. Yeah, you can't. But
I can tell you, like, if you read into the history of this injury, it makes you wonder, like, what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really serious injury, and he knew it right away. So you wish him the best, and you wish Howie the best getting Zach Baun signed. His price tag's a little higher than it was a few months ago.
A little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. I always got to get that done. Even Vic mentioned, we'll get to the coordinators, but said, I don't even like practicing with 2 backup linebackers. I mean, not that whoever, if Baun's not here and Nakobe's not playing, they won't be backups anymore, but it's unfortunate.
Yeah. So what did the Eagles do? We saw in that game, it was Oren Burks got out there, made some okay plays. I think definitely was a weaker spot. And, if it's just going to be Oren Burks, I think Sean McVay is going to say, all right, circle 42, let's find a way to get after him and exploit that weakness. It doesn't sound like it's just going to be Oren Burks. Vic Fangio said there's a good chance that it's a combination of Oren Burks and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., similar to what they did a few weeks ago against the Cowboys when they lost Nakobe for that game. And he said a lot of it has to do with special teams, but I also think that it might just be time to see what Trotter can do.
Yeah, when I asked Vic about that, I didn't really expect that answer, but he's so open and so honest about things. I'm not sure if the head coach likes that, but I'm with you. Look, Oren Burks is, I mean, you saw like on the special teams play, he's a really physical guy. He's played a lot of football. He clearly doesn't, I'm not going to criticize the guy. He plays hard. He's a tough guy, but he just doesn't have the coverage ability, the instincts of a Nakobe. I think in Trotter, and he just doesn't have the experience. He just hasn't played very much, but you just see that he's got some of those things. Like he looks more like a linebacker than a special teamer playing linebacker. And he's a good special teamer, but he looks like a linebacker when he's out there as far as his instincts and just being in the right place and diagnosing things. It's a risk. Look, he's a rookie late round pick. But I would feel better with him out there than Oren Burks, honestly.
Yeah, Oren had a tough game. I mean, heck, in the Week 18 game, he had 17 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. So it's not like he's a complete nobody. You know, and I think that the Eagles were realistic when they signed Oren Burks, how he said, hey, he's one of the better third, fourth linebackers in the league. He's told that to Nick Sirianni. And yeah, I think that in a pinch, you go with Oren Burks, but I think it will be a combination of these two based on the way Vic talked about it. Now, I think they might start off a game with Oren Burks, the veteran who's
I would think so.
The most veteran in that room. I mean, he's played a lot more than Bond or Nakobe Dean, but I think you have to mix and match a little bit. And I think it's really important. Like, obviously it's a tough loss from an emotional standpoint, but Nakobe was playing so well. And because he was playing so well, it allowed them to use Zach Bond in so many different ways and kind of deploy him as a weapon at times. Mm-hmm. I wonder if you have to scale that back when you don't have Nakobe.
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. Probably. I wonder, like, if they keep winning, if we might see Trot more and more each week. I don't know. I think the one thing he's missing is experience.
Only 3 more games.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a long runway here.
No, but and I'm not being. I don't want to come down on Oren Burks. You know, like you said, he's played more football than probably the other linebackers combined in that room, at least defensive football. So,
and special teams.
He's never really been a full-time starter either. I think he started 17 games maybe in his career over the years. Drafted by the Packers in the 3rd round in 2018, maybe.
This is his 7th year, so yes.
And then a couple of years with the Niners, and then signs here. So he's been around a long time. He's an experienced guy. They're lucky to have him. You see what he does on special teams. Maybe I'm just partial to Trot.
And look, we don't know. I think that sometimes we end up in obviously fans want Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I think a lot of that is because his last name, honestly. Yeah. And probably a lot of it is hearing about how he performed in training camp. We haven't seen a ton of them this year. And sometimes the unknown is more appealing than what you think you know about a player. And we saw Oren Burks struggle a little bit last week. So look, I don't know how Trout would perform. I think it's worth finding out.
Yeah. How do you think the reps will be broken up Sunday?
I think it'll be more Oren Burks than Trout.
Like 65-35.
Yeah, and I don't know the way
70-30.
The way Vic talked, it did seem like a healthy dose of Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
It did. Yeah, I kind of pursued it. There's a little follow-up question. Coaches love Trot, and I'm really curious to see how it plays out. But I agree. I think Burks will get the start.
And look, we talked about Bobby King earlier this year. He's done such a good job with the starters, like getting that level of play out of Nakobe and out of Zach Bond. Time for them to figure out how to get these backups ready to play, because there's going to be a drop-off. That's why they're backups. But you need at least a baseline level that is not exploitable.
Yeah, exploitable. It's interesting that it was Oren Burks and Trot that combined on that opening kickoff.
It was a great play by both of them.
Yeah.
Oren might get a FedEx in the mail this week.
You think?
Maybe. Doesn't matter. It doesn't change the play.
No, it sure doesn't. We'll find out later in the week. Yeah.
And Trotter did a great job. I mean, that ball was in Nixon's hands, and then it wasn't. So yeah. I don't know what he did down there in the bottom of that pile, but whatever he did, it worked.
Yeah, we asked Michael Clay. We'll get to the coordinators, but what goes on in the bottom of the pile? He just laughed and shook his head and said, I don't even want to know. I guess the players.
Yeah.
And there's no rules.
Got to get the football.
Yeah.
How do you think it plays out with these two guys? Like, not just the snap counts, but how do you think they play if they need to?
I mean, I'm concerned about Oren Burks versus, because like you said, they're gonna look for 42, and I mean, it's such a drop off from Nakobe.
I mean, they're gonna look for that spot no matter what.
That's true. I would
think. If you have a rookie out there, they're gonna try to exploit that too.
Sure. Yeah, rookie late round pick who's. Yeah, but I think they'll. I think whoever's out there is look. The rest of their defense is really good. I think they'll ultimately be fine. But it's a little scary, and more than anything, I just feel bad for Nakobe.
Yeah, man, that stinks, doesn't it?
The worst timing.
Yeah, he's someone that you can tell like has the respect of his teammates, like 100%.
Yeah,
there's not a player in that locker room that doesn't appreciate Nakobe Dean.
Yeah, and I've always liked talking to the kid, and I think I told this story about like a month ago. I just went back to say hi, and he just started talking about how much he loves his team. Like I wasn't interviewing him. I didn't have a notebook. I had my recorder out. He just started, man, we just play so well together. That's the strength of this defense. It's like it's like 11 guys playing as one. He was just like beaming, talking about it. And yeah. So you just hope for a happy ending with this one.
Yeah, hopefully in a couple of years we're like, remember that injury and how Nakobe overcame it, and now he's back on the field playing at this high level. You hope that's the case.
Hopefully next year. Yeah, hopefully we see him next year at some point.
Yeah, that'd be great. We should mention Zach Bond will have the green dot. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Right.
He's done that at times.
It's an adjustment, though.
It's a little bit of an adjustment. He kind of doesn't seem to mind it.
Yeah.
But Nakobe has kind of been a leader. Like the whoever has a green dot inherently kind of becomes a leader on the defense. But he's meant a lot. And even Zach Bond has talked about it because he doesn't have a ton of experience. That Nakobe is the more experienced guy as just a linebacker. He played in college, whereas like Zach Bond was kind of a hybrid player the whole time. So yeah, I think that they're going to miss him for his play and his leadership.
Yeah, no question.
All right, let's take a break. On the other side, other coordinator takeaways. We'll get into our top 8s and a bunch of questions from all you guys.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
We are back on the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. Reuben Frank and Dave Zangaro. We talked to Vic Fangio, Kellen Moore, and Michael Clay on Tuesday. A lot of what we talked with Fangio about was the linebackers, and I think we kind of broke that down enough. Anything else on the linebackers that we missed?
I don't think so. I mean, that was the main topic with him.
Yeah.
He addressed some other things off the game that.
Yeah. We should say like the one reason he gave us about why they are going to maybe split reps between those two players is their roles on special teams, because Oren Burks and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. have been key cogs on special teams. So it's about trying to figure out how they don't want to overload these two players who haven't played a lot of defense this year. So it's about trying to like split them up and make sure that neither of them end up with too much on their plate.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's part of it. He even said part of it is that, and he was asked why play two guys. I think I asked him why is it better to play two guys, and he said part of it is special teams. So there's more to it also. Yeah,
I mean, if they thought one of them was a liability, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
He wasn't a super talkative Vic Fangio today. He was asked about Bryce Huff, who played just one snap. That was a little surprising to me. I thought he would be at least playing, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 snaps.
Yeah, I think I said 15.
Yeah, played one. He wasn't lying, Vic Fangio, about being comfortable with that 3-man rotation.
No, and that really surprised me. In the playoffs, I guess he just likes to shorten his bench, but I thought,
and he definitely did. Like Nolan Smith played a ton, Jalen Carter played a ton.
Yeah,
the guys he knows can carry that load. He's going to let them do it.
Yeah. So I don't think that's going to change at this point.
Yeah, I don't think so, unless they end up in a blowout and they can get Bryce Huff out there.
Yeah, but gosh, you wonder how he thinks about all this. I mean, it's quite a contract he got.
Yeah, I mean, they had some really big hits in free agency. I mean, that's a clear miss, and it's a 3-year deal, so they're stuck with him next year.
Yeah, probably next year. They might Bradbury him next year. Who knows? But Bradbury's now the phrase for when you stash a guy.
I'm really surprised about the way the season's gone for him.
For Bryce Huff?
Yeah, I don't know if I thought he was going to be a star player. I thought he'd be contributing.
Yeah, and before he got hurt, it looked like he was starting to kind of turn a corner a little bit. that's why I'm surprised he had such a small role Sunday, because I thought at least.
Although, I mean, Vic hasn't really tried to hide the way he feels about Bryce Huff.
It's true.
You know, I think this is a case where maybe Howie liked. I'm speculating maybe the front office liked the player more than the coaching staff. It certainly feels that way, because even before, like early in the season, Huff was a part-time player.
Yeah,
he was starting, but like,
sometimes you get
Brandon Graham was playing a ton back then, and then Nolan started to come on.
Yeah, I mean, you got a guy in the building, and he's just not what you thought he was. It happens.
Gosh, where would this team be without Nolan Smith?
Yeah, he's been something else.
I mean, there was a real chance when this season started that not a chance, but we thought there was a good chance that he wouldn't be contributing much at all, and he's been their best edge rusher.
He has, and especially since the bye. I mean, he's been one of the better ones in the league. I mean, he's relentless, and
he didn't have a single sack, tackle for loss, or quarterback hit in the first 4 games.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you just didn't notice him, and something just clicked for him. And we've said this before, but like when you play hard all the time, and you're talented, eventually good things are going to happen most of the time. You could tell the way the coaches, even Michael Clay, the way the coaches talk about him, they love this guy. Nick, Vic, Michael Clay, they all just, you just ask about him and he just brightens up their day. They just rave about him and what a tremendous competitor he is, how hard he works in practice. I think he's a smart player. But he's relentless and he's physical and he's just goes hard all the time. And
gosh, is he physical?
Yeah.
He knocked the tackle out of the game.
He did. You worry about injuries with a guy like that because he's playing at was he 240?
On a good day.
235, maybe 235, I'd probably guess. And the way he plays, I mean, there's certain guys we used to talk about Avante, like playing so physical at his size, and you just worry about injuries, but so far so good. He's only the fifth Eagle to have 2 sacks in a playoff game.
And he's the youngest ever.
He's the youngest ever. There's the Eagles have only drafted 2 players who've had 2 sacks. Derek Burgess was the other one for the Eagles, and they've drafted 5 who had 2 sacks in a playoff game for other teams, including Steve White.
It's weird.
Reggie White. A few other guys, but he's not their MVP, Zach Bond is, but man, he's close.
He's been a lot.
Yeah.
Anything else from Vic that stood out to you?
I don't think so. That kind of covers it.
Kellen Moore asked some tough questions today. Didn't really give a whole lot. He admitted the passing game was not their best on Sunday, which it wasn't very good. I asked him if there was enough variety in the offense. And he said, well, yeah, you're trying to do a lot. Didn't say much at all. I mean, he's not great on the microphone, but we're back in this. If it's like I'm exhausted with this conversation because it seems like we have it every time the passing game struggles. Like, who's at fault? Is it Nick Sirianni? Is it Kellen Moore? Is it Jalen Hurts? And after this game, I think everyone's saying it's Kellen Moore. And I understand that you watch the game and you think, well, they don't have the spacing's messed up. The plays aren't there. It looks stale. There's no variety. So a lot of that has to fall on the offensive coordinator. But then you go, well, wait a second, because Nick's still here and he still has a hand in this, and Jalen's still here. And now like multiple coordinators with Jalen, and it looks like this. So I don't know exactly who's at fault. I think Kellen is a part of it. It needs to be better if this team is going to go to the Super Bowl.
No question about it. And I do think it's a little bit of all of them. And that's concerning. You're not going to win a ton of games thrown for. There was one stretch of 19 straight plays where they didn't complete a pass. Jalen was 0 for 7 with a sack. I think he had a couple runs in there.
It was a weird game, like pure stat, because he was so accurate and like hit all his passes early. Then there was this lull, and then at the end he started to complete some more.
Yeah, and he said rust had nothing to do with it. I don't believe that. He just looked rusty.
I don't know, because he came out and he made some completions.
Yeah, the scrambles. It was really just the dots and touchdown. It was a good one. Yeah, I think he had a short completion before that. But, I mean, he went 90. Somebody sent me the exact amount of time. It was like 90 minutes without completing a pass. And then he had his 2 longest passes of the game were almost back to back. It was 28 to Devontae, 9 to Devontae, 24 to Dallas. And that was like the pivotal drive.
Yeah. I mean, the Devontae on the drag was like the real pass, because the Dallas one was a short pass and it was off target.
Right. Can we talk about Devontae for a second? And I know he's not on the script or whatever. What do we call it? I don't know what we call a script.
Rundown.
The rundown. He's going to break Harold Carmichael's record for most receiving yards by an Eagle in the postseason. He needs 6 to break it, 5 to tie it, 465 for Harold, 460 for Devontae. He's 26. He's 26. He's played in 6 playoff games each year he's been here. And he's going to be the all-time Eagles leading postseason receiver. He's such a clutch guy. He doesn't get he's not AJ. He's not as good at, he's close, but he's their second best receiver. But man, he's so clutch. And he just always seems to come up big in those moments where you need a catch. And he had the bad drop against Washington, but he's one of only 15 receivers in history to average over 14 yards a catch and over 75 yards a game in the postseason. Just a really, really good postseason player. And
that predates his time here.
Yeah, no question about it. But we tend not to give him his due, maybe because AJ's so great. I still think AJ is one of the top 5 receivers in football. But man,
and he ain't 5.
No, I mean, I'd probably put him behind Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and then you have CeeDee Lamb. I think he and AJ are very close. Amon Ross, I think those guys are the next group, but yeah, he's definitely in the top 5, maybe in the top 3. But Devontae, there's something special about Devontae in those clutch moments, and he keeps showing it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And he's such a tough player, fun to watch.
Yeah.
Lowers his shoulder, like he's picking up the extra yard.
He's another one who, and I know you've been asking questions about just how Nick preaches toughness and how do you get, other than bringing in tough players, how do you get a tough team? And they have all these guys that are undersized that have that toughness, whether it's, we talked about Nolan Smith and, Avonte's always been that way. But Devontae's, you're not going to find a more physical receiver who weighs 160 pounds.
You said Avonte.
I did.
Oh, you did?
I said Avonte and Devontae.
Okay.
Because I think Avonte is a guy who is very physical for his size.
I just didn't expect an Avonte Maddox mention.
I couldn't think of anyone else that fit that. Just that undersized, but plays with that physical mentality. And they have a few of them. And
CJ.
Yeah.
Not the biggest guy, but he's trying to hit you.
Yeah.
And guys and maybe not the smallest guys, but like Josh Sweat, really physical player.
Even Slay, that used to be a knock on Slay that he was not a physical player, but he's become one.
Yeah, we even see like Quinyon Mitchell, big run stuff in that last game.
Yeah,
everyone's looking to hit somebody.
Yeah. Slay was hilarious, by the way, talking about his interception.
Yeah, I don't know how we ran any of that on TV.
Well, we did, and we did. We ran it.
Quick sensor fingers,
I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay.
But he's so funny. He's so naturally funny. And he was just talking about how he had a goose egg, and even though it's not the regular season, he's going to count it. And it's so funny. And his voice goes so high, and he talks so fast when he's getting into it. Like, it's hard to even understand what he's saying.
And you said Quinyon Mitchell owed him push-ups because he got the first pick between the two?
Yeah. He's a trip.
Q said that wasn't the case, so I don't know what happened there.
Anyway.
Anything else from Kellen Moore?
No.
He was asked about the Cowboys job because he's obviously been linked to that. That's a new thing since the last podcast as well. Mike McCarthy out in Dallas. Seems like they didn't, I don't know what's going on down there. They blocked him from interviewing with the Bears, and then he walks anyway. So now he's going to interview for the Bears job, I would assume. Deion Sanders mentioned by some national folks, which, I don't think Deion or Jerry would turn down the press. So I don't know where that's going to go. But Kellen Moore does make some sense. Familiarity there. I think that if the timing worked out differently years ago, he probably would have ended up as the head coach there.
Yeah. What do you think the odds are he's going to get a job?
Unlikely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's super likely. I mean, like, I think if you're going to hire a guy like Kellen Moore, who, like, I don't know how he is in front of a bunch of players. I don't know if he has like the personality. At least
Shermer got hired twice.
Sure, but my point is that, like, if you're not hiring for that reason, you're probably hiring him because you love what he brings from an X's and O's perspective. I don't know if you watch this offense and think we got to have that.
I agree.
And it's not like that's not a knock on this offense, but I don't think there's anything like you watch the Lions and you're like, okay, that's innovative. That's something that, like, if you're going to hire a scheme instead of a guy, which I don't know if that's the way to do it, it needs to be a dynamic scheme.
Yeah.
And right now, I don't know if Kellen Moore has either of those things in his favor.
Yeah. If there's a perception out there that Jalen is the issue with that, then, and you look at the Tanner McKee game, and it's totally different. I don't know. I'm not saying Tanner's better than Jalen, but the offense looked different, certainly.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think he's got about a 50, maybe 40% chance, 40 to 50.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
I would go under that, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's enough, Kellen Moore. Michael Clay, anything there you want to mention?
I meant to ask him about the Jake Elliott PAT miss, and I forgot. He wasn't asked about that.
I think he would have said he missed it. I don't know if there was much. He pulled it.
Yeah, he doesn't. Not much else he can say. What did I don't remember what I asked him. It made such an impact on me. He talked about Nolan Smith a lot. He talked about Trot. I asked him about Trot. And he talked about Oren Burks as well. I mean, he talked just about how hard all those guys play. Talked about the Rams special teams a little bit. Who cares?
I care.
He talked about, putting some starters on, more starters. It's win or go home.
I thought that was one of the more interesting things that came out of talking to Michael Clay, is just like how eager those starters are when they're called upon to play on teams, how ready they are to do it. And Nolan Smith, I asked him about that after the game on Sunday, and his eyes lit up. He's like, yeah, I want to play. I'm going to do everything I can do. And he brought some energy to the kickoff unit. He
did. We saw Cooper DeJean was out there more than usual. We saw Zach Bond was out there.
Well, he's been out there, but
he was out there more. Yeah. It's a shame Nolan Smith doesn't talk to the media very often, because he's a great quote. He's a great interview. His quote about losing Nakobe was really passionate and eloquent.
Yeah, well, those guys are really close.
Yeah.
Like, all the Georgia guys are close, but those two are roommates. And
he recruited him to Athens when he was in high school. He's done it.
Now, is that Athens, Georgia, or Athens, Greece?
Athens, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Athens, Georgia. You ever been to Athens, Georgia?
I've not.
It's a cool town.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's a cool college town. Yeah.
I forget why. The other night I was out with some friends and we were watching like videos of the animal mascots. Remember the time Uga got attacked by the Longhorn?
Yeah.
A crazy moment.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. It came up because I was on Baylor's campus this year, and they actually have two bears, like two black bears, like in an enclosure on campus.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I went to visit them, and they're hanging out.
We're like in a cage, or how does that?
Yeah, it looks better than just like a regular cage. It's like a zoo enclosure. It has like plexiglass windows.
Okay.
And, like, they have balls and toys and stuff.
It's interesting because I know at Lehigh they have an enclosure with two engineers in there.
Okay. Top 8 teams left in the playoffs. We did a top 10 ranking for all of the season. Well, there's only 8 teams left in the playoffs, so I think we might be similar on this.
No, let's see.
You make a lot of changes?
No, but no, I didn't make any changes.
Okay.
But I think we have a different number 1.
Yeah, I still have the Chiefs number 1.
Yeah, and I have the Bills number 1. I mean, I'm not going to, beat the Broncos convincingly. So
that game started off a little shaky.
It did. That was a great throw by Bo Nix to open the game, a 45-yard touchdown. I don't think they scored again. He's going to be a good player, though.
Yeah, I like Bo Nix.
Yeah.
2, I have the Lions.
I have the Chiefs still.
3, I have the Eagles.
I have the Lions.
4, I have the Bills.
I have the Eagles. I'm not sure the Eagles are the fourth best team, but I can't move them past anybody because nobody lost in front of them.
You can do whatever you want.
I guess I could, but you'd give me a hard time if I did.
Probably. 5 Ravens.
Yeah.
6 Commanders.
Yes.
7 Rams.
Yeah.
8 Texans.
Yep.
So we agree in the bottom half, not the top half.
Yeah. So, I haven't had the Texans in the top 10 all year. I had the Vikings 6th. They're obviously out. Who do you think I guess the Vikings was the most disappointing loss of the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers. Heck, if you're like me and you've been trying to talk about Justin Herbert for the last 4 years,
yeah,
it's a rough day for the Herbert people.
Yeah, that was kind of shocking.
I don't know how it should be more shocking. Yeah, I mean, the Steelers, no one really expected to win that game.
No.
Yeah. Bucks played tight.
Yeah. Okay.
Do some questions here?
Yeah.
Finish out the pod with some questions. As always, Eagle Eye at NBC Uni, Eagle Eye at NBCUNI.com, QR code on the screen Tom. If you're watching on YouTube. First one is from our buddy Siraj. Dave and Rube, love watching the pod and look forward to every new episode. My favorite part is when Rube gets to clicking his pen and the look on Dave's face. Hands up.
Pen.
Good. My question is regarding the lackluster offense we saw on Sunday. One thing we can say about this team and Jalen Hurts in particular is that they always seem to come up with a way to win no matter what it takes. Part of me believes that Nick and or Kellen are reining in the offense to a certain degree as a way of not showing all our cards until later in the playoffs when it's needed. With the way the defense is playing, we continue to run the ball and grind out games and beat teams comfortably, although it may not be the most aesthetically pleasing. Kellen said in a very early press conference, we want to create tendencies so we can break them at critical moments. I think this team is not unleashing their offense until they have to. That moment may never come with how well this defense is playing.
I do think that the game plan on Sunday was to be conservative. And I think they felt like if we just don't make mistakes and just grind out the yards, we're going to win the game. And it worked. And they were. I mean, some of those runs on, 3rd and 18, you run the ball. I mean, why risk a turnover? We're going to run the ball, punt, and stop them. And the whole game kind of coached like that. I'm fine with that. And I think that kind of plays into what he's saying. I think there's a time and a play. Like you're playing the Lions, and it's 3rd and 8. You're not running the ball in the line of scrimmage. You got to be aggressive. So, and
I think that does check out when you look at like the offensive play calling and also some of Nick's decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean I loved a lot of it. Like 3rd and long, you have AJ Brown, you have Devontae Smith, you have Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley. Try to get a first down.
Yeah, well, we've seen Saquon certainly convert some of those, as Nick reminded us.
Yeah.
After the game, I think that Saquon had a 19-yard gain on a 3rd and 16 earlier this year.
But I agree. The numbers tell you it's not a high percentage.
Sure,
play.
But I get it. I get why, and it's hard to watch. I mean, because it's just going to be a grinded out game. But sometimes that's makes the most sense.
Yeah, and look, I think I said it on the post-game pod, and I believe this, that style points don't matter as much in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like you got to do whatever you got to do to advance, and that's all that matters. But if we're looking at it analytically and we're looking at it like, what is this team going forward? Can they play this way and get to where they want to go? I still think the answer is no. That doesn't mean that it's a bad thing you win the game. I mean, you got to do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, I certainly think there'll be games where they can't play that way.
Okay. Next question is from Cigar. I believe it's Cigar. He told me how to pronounce his name once and I forget it. I hope you are well and staying out of trouble. I know we're all worried about Kellen Moore possibly leaving for a head coaching job, but hoping he decides to stay for another year. However, are you worried about any of the assistant coaches leaving? Mine will be Christian Parker leaving for a DC job. He has done a really great job with the DB room, and also don't want to let Clint Hurt leave either.
Yeah, I'm not sure how worried I am about Kellen Moore leaving. I mean, I think the real, where it would really hurt is that Jalen would have his 6th play caller since 2020.
Yeah, and I think that is important.
Yeah, I think that's I don't think he's a genius, play calling genius. I don't think he's, an offensive mastermind. I think he's a good, solid coach who's had some ups and downs, but we know how much Jalen hates, and maybe like if Kellen leaves, maybe Nussmeier becomes the OC. He's never really called plays though.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Yeah,
promoting QB's coach to offensive coordinator.
Yeah, we've seen that happen, but I don't think that necessarily means it would be a bad move. But I think the continuity makes it important to keep him.
I agree. Coaches you'd be worried about losing. For me, Christian Parker's at the top of the list.
Yeah, he's really good. He's really good. I mean, what he's done with the secondary it's remarkable. I mean,
I think he's going to be a DC at some point.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Maybe they can keep him long enough until Vic's ready to retire. That doesn't always work out.
Yeah. I don't know how much longer Vic wants to do it. Another year or two.
And Clint Hurt has been a DC before.
Yeah.
This line's playing well. Like he's got Jalen Carter playing at an all-pro level. Nolan Smith's improvement has been incredible. Josh Sweat even is having a bounce back year.
Been quiet the last few weeks.
Millen Williams having a career season.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good coach. Yeah. It's a good staff.
Next question is from Chris. Reuben, Dave, your podcast is always a number one listen when it comes to Eagles football. Your back and forth keeps it entertaining. My question is about Nolan Smith. He went from playing 4 quarters of the final blowout preseason game to registering 2 sacks in the first playoff win. Is this Vic Fangio and his staff working magic, or was it the light bulb going on? He looks nothing like preseason Nolan.
He's a little bit of both. I think it's mainly the kid. It just clicked for him. And you could see signs of that there was something there. We knew there was something there early. Just how low you would get turning the corner and how quick he was. He just couldn't transfer that into the games as a rookie. But I mean, I think we both felt like there was something there, and that eventually he was going to be a good player. I didn't think he'd be this good this quickly.
Yeah, I mean, heck, we saw it from his first training camp. Athletically,
that's what I was.
Yeah,
that's
there's
what
something
I meant.
there. Yeah. If you're going to give any credit to the coaching staff, Vic's done a great job with a lot of things. He wouldn't be the first name I'd
give. It'd be Wash for me.
Jeremiah Washburn certainly has a big role to play in this, but the developmental staff, whether it's Connor Barwin or Matt Leo, they've spent a lot of time with Nolan Smith because he had all these physical tools, but he was really raw. And it was something I remember hearing from someone when they drafted him that he has to put it together. He doesn't know how to be a pass rusher yet. He doesn't know how to put together a pass rush plan. He's out there, but now you see it that inside move.
Yeah.
In that last game for his first sack is that's next level stuff that he wasn't able to do a year ago. So Washburn, Connor Barwin, Matt Leo, those 3 have really worked hard with him.
Yeah, I remember talking to Nolan at training camp, and I asked him about pass rush moves. And I said, do you feel like you've improved your arsenal? And he's like, just watch. You just watch me this year. I'm going to be doing things I just had no idea how to do last year, and he has. And
with a guy
who would you say is most improved player on the team? Would it be Nolan? Would it be Nakobe? Someone else?
Most improved on the team. I don't even know how you does that include Zach Bond? Who
yeah,
I don't know how you maybe Zach Bond. But I don't know if he's we haven't seen it. He's new here.
Yeah,
and he hadn't really played that position full time. So I don't know.
I wouldn't count him just because. Yeah, I would just count people who kind of were in the same role or in the same position. Yeah, I mean, he's not improved. He's just blown up.
Probably Nolan.
Yeah.
You could argue Nakobe.
You could. Anyway.
Okay. Next question is from Bo. Hi, Reuben, Dave. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Saquon is so selfless that it's actually borderline annoying. Is he the most team-first, winning over everything type player you've ever covered? If not, who is? Jalen certainly fits that category as well.
I think he is. I'm just dazzled by everybody says the stuff he says, but he's so genuine and he means it. I mean, he really means it. I really think that if he had 11 rushing yards and they won 3-0, he'd be thrilled. I really think he loves being the best. He's incredibly competitive. He wants the yards, he wants the numbers and the stats, but I've never seen a more team-oriented guy.
Now, I do want to say this about Saquon. We know this version of Saquon. We don't know Saquon as a rookie in the league. We don't know Saquon at Penn State. I never got to cover that guy. I think the experience of being on bad teams in New York, it's very possible that that's shaped who he is now. Because like if you go through those experiences and you're the best team on a crappy team or the best player on a crappy team, like I think that probably gets real boring real quick. And he's on this team and he looks around and he sees like, I'm not getting the ball. It might go to A.J. Brown, and that's okay. I think that, and I don't know. Maybe he's always been this selfless.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think being on this team would, even if he wasn't before, you could see how that would make him this way.
Yeah, it's quite possible. Might not have the same attitude about it if it's that ball's going to Darius Slayton. It's true.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next one is from Adam. Hey, Reuben, Dave, first time, long time. Simple question here. Has a team ever beaten the same opponent on 2 continents in the same season? Thanks, guys, and keep up the awesome work. Go Birds. I did look this up.
Did you really?
Yeah, it didn't take long. Honestly.
Wait, did you look it up after you saw the question or before?
After.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't look that up before. And I only found one instance, and then I stopped looking because it has happened before.
Oh, really? Jaguars?
Yeah. Houston beat the Jags in 2019 in Houston and then at Wembley.
Interesting.
It took me 3 seconds to look that up. I figured the Jags have probably done that. And yeah,
that was like, I was looking up the last time a team had 3 guys get their first career postseason interception in the same game. I was doing that on Monday because the Eagles did it on Sunday and the Texans did it on Saturday. So that one didn't take very long. Did not make my stats column.
Nick from Richmond, Virginia. Brady has pronounced it Cam Jurgens a couple times now. What's the correct pronunciation? I believe it's Jurgens.
Yeah.
He even has beef jerky.
Yeah.
Like his jerky company. Beef. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beef jerky.
Boy, Brady got booed. It was so funny pregame.
It is kind of neat watching Brady. Like he'll take the field. I don't know if he's going to be doing this next year with all the Raiders stuff, but like you see him take the field and it's all eyes kind of, it's fun. Like you see him walk out there and all eyes kind of shift over to Tom Brady.
Yeah. And so it's interesting to see who goes over, who he talks to, and who makes the cut. So yeah, that was the pregame dynamics are fascinating to me.
Yeah, I was working. He was like, Dave, and I was like, not now, Tom. I'm busy.
I saw Quick go over and talk to him for a while. Because when you made 5 Pro Bowls as a receiver, you're right in audience with them.
Now they're not colleagues, but they're contemporaries.
Yeah, I guess they are. People think Brady's not very good. I don't hear him because
I think he's got a lot better.
Do you?
Yeah, just in time for him not to be able to do it next year.
Yeah. What else we got?
One more here from Chris.
From Chris.
From Pottsville, PA, the home of Yingling. I've been listening to you guys since the loss in the Super Bowl and have been a huge fan ever since. Best sports podcast on the net. I look forward to hearing what you guys say every week. My question is, let's go back to the offseason and we don't pick up Saquon Barkley. How would our season look without him? I'm curious to know what you guys think our record would be today without him. Would we be the number 2 seed, make the playoffs, or something maybe even worse? I think our team is one of the most balanced teams in the league, but it's hard to dismiss how much Saquon has added to the team, both in numbers and his contribution in the locker room. It would be great to hear your response.
Well, who do you have? I mean, do you keep DeAndre Swift? Do you have Gainwell?
Let's say like a Swift level player, so a good player.
Yeah, I certainly don't think they win this many games.
I think the whole team looks different.
Yeah. I think it
like
changes.
They don't shift to the philosophy. I don't think they have the toughness, the physicality.
Yeah.
I think they're a completely different team.
Yeah. I think maybe they're a 10 or 11 win team. I think they'd be good. I don't think Jalen's as efficient. If he's had, if you don't have Saquon, all of a sudden you can't throw the ball 20 times a game, man. And you have to throw it 30 times a game, which I don't think is ideal for Jalen right now. It's
so fascinating because it is kind of a butterfly effect because like, it's not like you're just saying, put DeAndre Swift and Saquon Barkley in this offense and see what it looks like. Because I think the offense has changed so significantly because of Saquon.
Right.
So like if you don't have him, then I think all these deficiencies in the passing offense that we've been talking about, I think they're probably more prevalent. We're talking about them every week, but then maybe because of that, they start to fix some of them, and you lean on the talent of AJ Brown. So I don't know what would happen, but I think they would clearly not be as good.
Yeah, I mean he's been their best offensive player. You can make a case he's been their best player.
Rush for 2,000 yards.
Yeah, that's a lot of yards. By the way, with his 119 yards Sunday, he's now got the 5th most yards ever in a season, including regular season and postseason.
Yeah, and he turned down 59 more.
Yes, he did. He would have been 3rd if he and we were kind of talking about this earlier. I'm not sure he would have scored. Nixon's coming over and cutting the angle off. I think he would have got at minimum 20 more yards.
I think he scores.
Yeah, you think he scores?
I mean, because he's faster than anyone in the league this year on those long runs. He's running 22 miles an hour.
He's really fast.
I think he takes it to the house.
Could be. It
was a cool moment, though. And then Nick explained the no mas. That's their term in 4 minute when a first down wins the game, just go down. And it is annoying, as our previous listener said. It is annoying a little bit, but it's the right play because you can't put your defense back in the field. What if someone gets hurt?
Yeah, and strange things can happen. You know, you give up a big play as an onside kick. You have a chance to end the game. You do it. He just said it with so much. He's like, why would I keep running? I can end the game. It's like,
yeah. There's a very funny mic'd up clip with Devontae and AJ yelling at him for going down.
Oh yeah, I'll check it out.
It's very funny.
He just doesn't care.
Yep. If you have a question for us, it's eagleeye@nbcuni.com, QR code on the screen. That's all we've got today. Ruby, you have anything else?
No, we will see you guys in a couple of days, and got football Sunday.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing at all. Oh, I wanted to mention, I got a new digital recorder, which is a big deal in my nerd world. I've had the same one for like 15 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've had anything for 15 years.
I don't lose things.
I kind of do.
I've noticed that about you.
I lost my phone. I lost my cell phone at the link on Sunday.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you get it back?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Thankfully, one of the I was in the photo room before, I guess it fell on the floor, and I just ended up over at the our radio pregame location. I didn't have it. I went all the way back, and thank you to Monica Herndon from the Enquirer who rescued it and made sure I got it.
Excellent. All right. That's all we have for today. We'll talk to you guys on Thursday. Have a good week. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan.